This is a tender subject. And I imagine I might cry in the telling, and some of you might cry, and that's okay. Tears are cleansing. Crying is cathartic. And we are whole when we allow ourselves that honest response to contemplating what we lose and our grief. One of my favorite quotes is from Martin Prechtel, and he offers us, grief is praise because it's the natural way love honors what it misses. What we're going to touch on today, lightly, tenderly, is that time when a person is in transition from this world to the next. We're going to touch so softly. And it is a way to bring grace to that time of death for others and for ourselves. There's an aspect in our culture that is afraid of death. And there are a lot of really good reasons for this. So I'm not going to argue against it, nor try to talk you out of it. Still, there are times when that fear may interfere with the natural, sacred, and holistic process of letting life become death when breath becomes air. We understandably are attached to this body and to the bodies of those we love. And this process is no easy task. But I must suggest that it is a necessary task. Because it is hard for us to wrap our heads around it, so must then we wrap our hearts around it. I'm not an expert on death and dying, and this exploration will be incomplete, but my experiences have taught me a lot. In seminary, I was in a chaplaincy program at UC San Francisco, and I sat with many people who were striving to live or struggling to accept that they or their loved one was dying. My job was to bring some semblance of grace to the room and to their experience. In spiritual care services, we are there to attend to the patients and their families and to meet them where they are. There's the goal of being supportive, sometimes spiritually with a prayer or a religious understanding of death and dying. Sometimes with simple silence or holding hands. Sometimes there's a story. Sometimes people show pictures, and sometimes a song. Sometimes it entails tears because that is where they are and that is what they need. I am to be a presence to this because it is their process. During this time, I learned of an organization that I have since joined, one that brings grace to the room through song, and that is the Threshold Choir. The originator of the Threshold Choir is Kate Munger. She conceived of this practice of singing gentle, quiet, soft songs to beloved who had AIDS, and she needed something to comfort herself and to comfort him. A song came to her heart and out through her mouth, and she sang at bedside for the first time. Last Sunday, I had the blessing of singing with her in the covered bridge in Felton. What a beautiful place to sing, to fill that old wood with our songs. Glorious. I asked Kate, what about the Threshold Choir would you like me to share? And she said, it is kindness made audible. Kindness made audible. Singing this song blesses me. Singing with you blesses us. My heart is searching for your heart. Your heart is letting me find you. Your hearts are letting me find you. An invitation of the Threshold Singers to sing bedside of a person who is terminally ill or transitioning is one that offers ease, comfort, compassion, presence, and in a word, grace. For some, it is like listening to angels, like a shimmering road that leads us out of suffering and into peace. Other angels that can provide a way for families and their beloveds on this journey are called end of life or death doula. Death doulas are trained professionals who provide focused, compassionate, and intuitive presence. Their offerings can include physical and practical care. They can ease the burden on caregivers, and they are knowledgeable in some of the legalities that can confound a family in challenging times. Their practice includes creating sacred space, a lot like what we've done here today. And they hold space when others are unable. On a practical note, death doula is similar to hospice. Hospice generally offers medical and pain control medication, social workers and chaplains. And I have been trained as a hospice volunteer, so I can attest that they have a wonderful volunteer program where people can come and sit beside your beloved and giving the caretakers a break. And the death doula is hired to spend more time with the dying person and their loved ones, like a navigator, to provide hands-on, logistical, emotional, and spiritual support. Should we have the opportunity to be with a beloved in their last days? It may not seem like it, but it is a blessing. It is a gift of life's most profound experiences. It is a spiritual practice. It is a sacred time, a holy time when a person is dying. It is a time of compassion, soft lights, soft voices, a liminal space that we may not understand. This is when it becomes a leap of faith to surrender to the process as it unfolds. It's a matter of trust, trusting the body and the soul know what to do. They know how to do this. And when it's ready, this letting go, when breath becomes air. To quote Khalil Gibran again in his masterful prose, The Prophet, Then Amrita spoke, saying, "We would now ask about death." And he said, "You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. For what is it to die but stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? What is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you sing. And when you reach that mountaintop, then you shall begin to climb. And when earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall truly dance. Blessed be this dancing, this climbing, and this singing.